to speak. Okay, audience, I'd like to welcome you back. This is the second consecutive night that I'm here with my friends Josephine Pierulli and Jim Boydston from beautiful San Diego, California. By the way, you guys can't see me, right? Because the thing is, I have my picture, I have my camera up in the OBS screen, so if that's all right with you. Well, yeah, they can see you and they can see me, but you guys, they can't. You guys can't see me, but the audience can see all of us. Anyway, we've had kind of a saga of about going on 4 months soon, where we're discussing really one of the more zany instances of people that have been able to just through osmosis get lies into the public sphere. And I mean, truly, John Mattis, who is the person we're talking about, he's not the biggest story regarding the Russiagate thing, but the fact that he's been cited as a source, I think, is a black mark.
She did on Rachel Maddow, so go figure that.
And he's one of the people that started the fires.
True. He did get the ball rolling.
And by the way, he was in Politico, which is normally considered a very, at least a very insider news organization.
Right. Politico, Huffington Post.
So for those of you that don't know, I'll pull up the articles. I'll have to drag him over to my side and minimize. You guys, I'm going to disappear for a second. So 1 second. The thing is that in April, just to reiterate, and I know a lot of people who have been watching for a while, they've been through this song and dance already. But I've noticed that in Politico, they were basically attributing some of the Russian indictments from that month to hacking of the Bernie Sanders campaign, which was not connected at all. I actually read the indictments, and there was no actual circumstantial connection to any group.
Yeah.
That not even, I mean, not your group and not any Bernie group. It was very I think there were some just actual random splash posts across Facebook about it, but it had nothing to do with Bernie Sanders activist groups. So, then of course there was my discovery of that source, John Mattis, who spoke to Edward Isaac Dovere and claimed that he'd already informed the Hillary Clinton campaign in September 2017 of of what had happened, of Russian infiltration. And then of course, he also spilled the beans bizarrely in the same article, saying that he'd been in communication with American Bridge 21st Century, which is a super PAC. So,
right.
Of course, to cut to the chase, that's how I found the two of you through the Rachel Maddow video.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for finding us.
Right, and I'd like the world to find you guys, but unfortunately, I think that there is, there's such a just like a preponderance. It's like the entire world has been covered with a whole layer of crap, and nobody can see the truth anymore. And I think people don't really, they look at a Russia story and they're like, well, it's another Russia story, so what does it matter?
I think they don't want to know the truth.
Right.
They're comforted by the lies.
Well, I'm not only talking about the people who believe in the Russia myth. I'm saying that there's the people who have been opposed to the Russia narrative have also been saturated by news about it, and it's become such a cottage industry that
it's exhausting.
Right, and I mean, truthfully, I even contacted somebody that the two of you have met personally, Lauren Steiner, and sent her my articles. And I can't show it on screen because I'm not going to show my Facebook profile. And she replied back. She said, the articles are pretty good, but there's no public interest. And I was, I was kind of not happy with her. And I wanted to say, it will be public interest when you're able to drag the frauds that have basically distributed this nonsense into the public and made them to appear as the fools that they are. But I didn't say that. I kind of
interviewed Alita.
Sorry, what's that?
Lauren Steiner is the one that interviewed Alita about all this.
That's true, but I think one of the issues here, and in my case, I have the issue that I get very verbose and I'll write an article and it gets really long, and not everybody wants to read a 3-page article about a topic of a person that honestly, in the grand scheme of things, they don't think is that important. And then in her case with Lauren Steiner, she can do an interview with somebody. She can discuss the topic with Alita Pierce, but the fact is that you really need to go in and do a deep dive at a certain point, and maybe she should have done multiple interviews on this, but I don't think that this is just about Lauren Steiner, because after all, she did cover it. But the issue is that people have lost focus and decided that it's better to fight with people who aren't willing to listen to you than to seek out an audience that's receptive to what you're saying. So what I see often, and I don't know if you guys share the same experience with me, is that in progressive circles, there happen to be there happens to be a very big activist class that, they'll constantly be on Twitter fighting with centrist Democrats, which, obviously they have a reason to, but that doesn't actually advance any cause of progress, because those people are not going to listen to them. I'm sure sorry, Jim.
Oh, I don't acknowledge the left-right paradigm anymore. That is, I kind of connect that to something that I've alleged about the commercial media for a long time. A huge marketing tool is to make the public feel, or make consumers feel insecure unless they have whatever it is they're trying to sell us. Mm-hmm. And the establishment's doing that politically now. And that's what's keeping us so divided. And it's feeling like, one side's evil and the other side isn't, because one side's conservative and one side's liberal. And there were a lot of things that came to the fore a couple of years ago that showed that kind of ideological crap didn't matter. That there were so many things that every American and every human agreed on. And this is the establishment doing this to us.
Yeah, I think it's, and just in the past couple of days, I can echo exactly what you're talking about. Larry Gerke says, yo, Jim, nuke bro, bold like a leopard was supposed. Well, I think I sent Larry's info to you. So sorry, Larry. I mean, that's not, but one of the viewers is a fan of yours, Jim. But in any case, just in the past couple of days, I've heard from people who are very centrist who are saying, well, this whole walk-away movement in the Democratic Party is going to be a problem because we need two equal or very, we need two parties that are very strong in the system in order to keep it honest. And my response was, if one or both parties is basically completely beholden to, just corporate masters or influence makers at the top, I don't think that anybody has to commit to either of them. For example, I support a candidate from Massachusetts. I don't live in Massachusetts, named Shiva Udare, who's a right-wing person who's very much against genetically modified foods and Monsanto. And it's a campaign that he's made a very compelling pitch about it. It's his baby. He's not in it in order to own Massachusetts. He's in it in order to advance a certain issue that he likes. And do you feel, either of you, and it could be an answer about anything, do you think that in the midst of this whole crisis, that issues that have been important to you are simply, they're just buried beneath a mountain of rubble.
Right.
True. It's been difficult to get any headway on other issues because they're just 24/7 pushing their propaganda about Russia, and no one else seems to care about that, about any other issue.
Yeah, the entire Russia narrative is just another one of those ruses to distract us, while the oligarchy continues to control our government and
right
corporate welfare, war for profit. It all just keeps going on.
And then when we want to discuss Russia, and it's not just like our small our topic, I think it's an important topic. What you and I all know about this particular aspect of Russiagate. I think it is important, but in general, if you look at media reporting on this, it's basically like some sort of thought control. That if you want to discuss Russia, if you want to present your point of view, which in my point of view, the real threats to the United States are China, and I don't want a war with China either. So you say something like that. There was a congressman last week, I think it was Congressman Gomert, who in the past has been seen as kind of a guy from Deliverance or something, but this guy, he said, well, I mean, remember, there were other countries that had that were trying to meddle in the elections. Has Facebook done any studies about that? And the Facebook representative, she actually answered, well, I don't have any information on that offhand, meaning they probably don't want to talk about it, even if they do. So you've been observing this, and does it make you believe, for example, that there is kind of a nexus between the media itself, I mean literally, and these intelligence organizations and maybe even defense contractors and people that have an interest in remaining at odds with Russia?
Absolutely.
Operation Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, media has so much control over the message that the government wants them to receive. That is the outlet. In China, it's known that the government, controls their media. The media is controlled by the Chinese government. And the United States, they just pretend that you actually have independent media. And other than, alternative media, anything that's mainstream media is pretty much controlled by the government. We witnessed this via Hillary's emails, where she instructed mainstream media to elevate Donald Trump as the Pied Piper, and he received billions of dollars of airtime. Whether you like him or not, that's what happened. She told mainstream media to do it, and they did it. They covered an empty podium instead of giving Bernie Sanders any coverage. Whether you like him or not, this whole discussion is, does media control the message that the public receives, and is it via the government? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's like really, I mean, you make an amazing point. Like my candidate, Rand Paul, didn't receive a lot of attention. Another candidate that I thought was pretty good, Ben Carson, received kind of like, they were laughing at him and they said, hey, he's not even going to win. Another candidate that I thought was interesting, Jim Webb, he actually blew a stack. He said, this is a joke. Nobody even cares. This Democratic primary. It doesn't even matter because the media's already decided who's going to win. and then
they announced that she won California before they even had our election in the primaries. So
yeah,
right.
And
I think and we'll discuss some more aspects of things that I think are similar to what we've experienced with John Mattis soon. But I personally feel, and it's come to a point where I don't know if we're gonna actually get traction with this, and I think I've been honest with everybody here. But yeah, but in 2018, people are still talking about 2016. However, if the Democrats were to, garner a huge disappointment in 2018. What do you think would be the reaction on their part? Do you think that they would begin to be more transparent and give a little more ground to alternative voices, or do you think that they'll remain?
I do not see that happening. I see them doubling down, tripling down. It's going to take a complete destruction of them going up in flames. I mean, let's be honest here. They are serving their donors and masters. So there's no way they're going to back off. And they would rather see a Republican, Trump or whoever, than a progressive like Bernie Sanders. They've proven that. And so I don't see them doing anything to turn around in 2018. In fact, in New York, we had a progressive, that people say she's a progressive, and Crowley is still running in November, even though he lost the primary. They're not going to give 1 inch to the progressives anywhere.
Yeah, I think in New York it is a loophole of their election system, which I'm familiar with because I've been donating money to the Libertarian gubernatorial candidate there. And you can actually stand on more than one party ballot, which I think is an interesting idea. But in this case, it sort of shows that they can, sneak back in after they've been defeated in a primary. It's a little weird. I think we can all agree on that. And he's claiming, he's not going to be actively campaigning. And to me, that kind of means nothing. So we have in the chat, by the way, we have Landon McCarthy is here, also a former Bernie Sanders supporter. Larry, who we mentioned before, he says he's a Plink owner of the USS Arkansas CGN 41, Twin Powers, Shellback. I mean, he's giving all this info, man. Tomorrow, arrested and sharing a cell with Julian Assange, Larry Gerke. So he wanted me to say that on air, and I did. He says he lives in Oceanside, so I guess maybe is that in your area?
North, I hear that.
Yeah.
But in any case, so John Mattis again he really kind of represents this very shadowy source for these journalists. And I was talking with Joanne yesterday. I don't know if you guys watched live or you watched later, because I did send you the link. However,
I heard it this morning. So
we were speculating, and this is strange. So Joanne was beginning to propose that John Mattis, it's not that the journalists got it wrong with him. It's that he is basically kind of a conduit for a program that they're trying to advance. Like they know that he's completely full of crap, but it doesn't even matter.
That would not surprise me, merely for the fact that it takes no effort at all to find out who an admin of a Facebook page is. So if they wanted to confirm whether he was telling the truth, it takes nothing at all to go on Facebook and look to see who the members are and who the admin is. And if they wanted to know if he was a legitimate source, that's all they had to do.
And that would be why I've nicknamed him Mole.
So let me propose something, and this is speculation, okay? People, like I was in an argument with somebody earlier about a different topic, and he was like, there's proof Trump he met with Putin and he told the translators to leave or something. I'm like, yeah, that's speculation. That's not. I mean, you can't propose that. But I'm admitting right now I'm speculating here, but I want you guys to hear me out. What I think kind of happened here was that John Mattis, yes, he was connected to Correct the Record and of course 21st Century American Bridge, but he's also, along with that, has had contact with media figures over his career, and therefore Correct the Record or 21st Century American Bridge, they utilized his his past and gave him sort of the fast track to advancing his bullshit, because he has connections in the industry, whereas other journalists not gonna. I mean, we all have favorite journalists that don't get they're just due, but they can't get through. They're just not in the network. So I believe that he is fully hooked up with a network of journalists who believe that they don't believe in Russiagate, but they believe it's important to keep it there.
I have to agree with you for the mere fact that we are trying to get the truth out and no one is giving us the time of day. We've tried to contact all of them to tell them that they need to retract the story because it isn't true, or at least correct the story because it isn't true, and they won't give us the time of day. So yes, I do agree very much with your speculation.
So we have I think a new viewer, Grim Reaper. What does it mean when you say Russia hacked the election? I think he was referring to Jim's shirt. I believe it's called sarcasm. We used to have it in this country before 2016. So
well, you need to explain why.
Yeah.
Rachel Maddow covered that lying story about Russia hacking our Facebook page. She did a screenshot of the Bernie Craft page in which Jim had a comment. And
my post was George Soros, $, arrow, priorities USA, $, arrow, indivisible. And I said, let that sink in. In other words, I was implying that Indivisible was not a grassroots organization. It was funded by George Soros. And that was Rachel Maddow's backdrop while she went ranting about Eastern European bots.
And since then, Jim was contacted, and people were thinking that he was an Albanian bot. So this is a joke.
Right, and Grim Reaper says, "Don't talk crap about Rachel Maddow. She is a beautiful man." Well, I mean, we're not going to talk about that today because I might get a strike for homophobia or something.
Well, here's my response whenever somebody comes at me like that. I can give you 7 million reasons a year why I don't trust Rachel Maddow.
Yeah, that's true. And she originally started out, and I was never a fan of her stuff during the Bush era because I didn't like Bush, but I also didn't like a lot of his opponents. But she started out on it wasn't Pacifica Radio, but it was Air America.
Air America.
Air America.
And look how time has changed people, and that's kind of why I'm a little happy that my life isn't tied completely to journalism. It's tied to like a different career, but it's a little sad, and it's also sad the same. I mean, Bill O'Reilly, Mr. Catholicism for so many years. I mean, come on, dude, like get it together. I mean, I don't know if it was correct to fire him. I just think it reflects a lot on who these people really are. So,
that's just more establishment political theater.
Right. And I would say, though, that there was another creator, not on YouTube, but on Medium, that I found a couple months ago. And let me see if I can show it on screen. I should send it to you guys. And actually, Jim, I think I did send it to you guys. 1 second. So you should see this. So there is a creator on Medium. His name is Investigator. And he has a number of articles. I'll send it to you through the chat on Hangouts, okay? So you should get it in a couple seconds. And this person, he seems to be like John Mattis in terms of his rhetoric. Now, I'm not going to speculate that he is John Mattis because he seems to have a better way of writing, although not much better. Like he has a better handle on organizing his thoughts. But he wrote an article on April 25th called "The Twitter Lynching of Joy Ann Reid by the Bernie Left." Now, I don't think it was the Bernie left that killed. I mean, first of all, she didn't lose her job. But a lot of the Bernie people, like the more committed ones, have suffered career consequences for it. So they're behaving as if she's some sort of victim, Joy Ann Reid, when in fact it is true that she had on her website anti-gay things that she said. It is true. Did you guys get the link? Or
No, I don't have the link.
I haven't seen it.
You sent it on the screen?
it should be here. I'll try it again.
Okay.
You see it now? Yeah.
There it is. There's a link. Should I click on it?
Yeah. Click on that. So this person, I want to tell you, like when you pull up this person's articles, his name is or her name. I don't know if it is really a woman or a man, is on Medium and publishing a lot of articles that are defamatory towards the alternative viewpoint in the Democratic Party. You know, the Bernie Sanders community, let's call it. And they claim that there was a Twitter lynching of Joy-Ann Reid by the Bernie left, when in reality, she's been responsible for a lot of the flack thrown at Bernie Sanders supporters throughout the campaign. And one of the funniest things is that they claimed that there was this meme. Can you see this this chameleon graphic in the middle, Jim?
Yeah.
So.
There it is. Yeah.
So they claimed it was a racist attack against Kamala Harris because it's watermelon, but that's a chameleon's mouth.
It is a chameleon.
Yeah.
So these are people, right? Yeah, it looks red like the pulp of a watermelon. So I don't know what the hell to make of this, and all I can say is it reminds me of John Mattis. I don't know if it is him. It could just be somebody who, you know, is in a similar role, because after all, CTR had a lot of similar people working for them. When you two are, of course, interacting with people in the community you live in San Diego. There's a large progressive community in San Diego. Do you feel the need to suppress your own views in the company of people that are, you know, these hardcore Democratic supporters, or do you not care anymore?
Luckily for me, I have not really been in very much contact with the Vote Blue No Matter Who crowd. I kind of them exited when I came back from the convention. I have my core group of people that I'm friends with on Facebook who we share the same sentiments regarding all of this Russia bullshit. Thank goodness for that. There are a few postings that I see from the Vote Blue No Matter Who that I already know who they are, so I expect them to buy into the bullshit. It's sad. I don't really get into it, but I don't keep secret on my Facebook page how I feel about all of this. And if I lose friends over it, that so be it, because I'm not going to back down. I tell people exactly what I think of it. If they, I mean, I'm not going to go out to strangers and tell them what I think, but you know, my friends know how I feel about it.
And yourself, Jim, have you had any friction in you know, your interactions in San Diego with people who are still Hillary supporters?
I haven't been. I've been pretty outspoken as far as my perspective on the corporate corruption of the Democratic Party and the hopelessness of any of these attempts at this alleged reform from within. And for that, I get treated like I'm nasty.
He's gotten a lot of crap.
Right, and you know, it's really, you know, I have something like that sometimes. You know, I criticize certain aspects of the, you know, the mainstream Republican Party, and there are mainstream Republicans that will say, well, what are you, some sort of, you know, they'll call me like a Palestinian or something, and I'm like, no, it's probably the furthest thing from the truth, but I'm like, no, I oppose foreign aid, period. You know, I think all countries should be independent. You know, for example, I'm just giving like one example. I say, you know, I don't believe that any country should be beholden to defense contractors. And they say, well, you must be some sort of hippie communist. I'm like, what are you talking about? But it doesn't get near to the aggression and animosity that you seem to describe. It's just kind of teasing each other. But so bearing that in mind, obviously I don't think you guys line up politically with Donald Trump. Has your opinion of his presidency changed at all with respect to this Russia thing? Do you think it's unfortunately, I think a lot of people who have hated him, there's a lot of reasons to see him as the lesser threat right now. But what do you think about that?
Well, I still feel that he's just the chosen establishment tool at the moment. After all, if you look behind all of the theatrics, things are still going pretty much the way they have for decades, as far as corporate welfare and military-industrial complex is concerned, and what's done with with public money. And for these guys, it's all about greed.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think he has, for example, with for one example, he hasn't cracked down on the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, he's made a couple changes, but
he's been trying, and I give him credit for that, because I did not have any great expectations when he was, the winner of the election.
Of course.
But I was hopeful, and he did stop the TPP, so that I think was a good thing, because I didn't really want corporations to be able to override existing laws that environmental laws, for example, they would have, if they just claim that they expect to lose money, they can sue cities and states over laws that we've created with regard to environment or whatever that may affect their profit. So I think in that regard, I'm glad that he stopped TPP. As far as draining the swamp, that was a disappointment. I'm not surprised, but I was hopeful that maybe he would drain the swamp, and instead he did put in quite a few people that disappointed. So, I do remember seeing a meme floating around that said something about a party so corrupt that it creates Trump supporters, and I think that the Democrats are doing a good job. Every time that anyone attacks him, it said something like, "Imagine a party so awful, so corrupt, so repulsive that they actually create Trump supporters." And I think they are. They're almost making Trump into a victim now, and any of his previous supporters are definitely backing him, and now maybe some other people are thinking, some of this is really bullshit and uncalled for. So, I mean, at this point, I think that he probably has more support than you would expect. And the Democrats are doing it to themselves. It's almost like they're intentionally driving people towards him.
Yeah, I think for me, it was a very slow process. I did end up voting for him because I just really, really hated Hillary Clinton. But the fact of the matter is, though, that you guys live you live very close to the Mexican border. Do you think recent events, are you worried about the relationship with Mexico, given the fact, obviously Mexico's new president has a very contrarian stance towards Donald Trump, and he's going to be inaugurated, I believe, in a month. Does that worry people in San Diego, that there's going to be kind of this adversarial relationship between him and Donald Trump? Or do you think, I have a theory it might actually work out to the better, but, you have to take both possibilities into account.
I don't think it's going to affect it very much, no.
Right.
I'm hoping that we have some kind of immigration reform, and I hope that we can stop intervening in other countries and create more refugees. That's my hope. Many of the people that are coming here are from
El Salvador. Yeah, El Salvador. Yeah, here too. Here in Ohio. Yeah.
So, and we've gone over there and created a big mess in that country. So if we stop doing that, maybe we won't have so many refugees.
Right, and I think an issue that is fueling the refugee crisis. Well, I mean, there's both refugees, so there are legitimate refugees, and then there's economic migrants. And when the presidential election was in the was in the full bloom, President Fox of Mexico, former President Fox, was coming here and touring around, and he was saying, the USA, when I was president, people would come up to me and they'd say, well, we want to have opportunity. We're going to the USA, and my response was, dude, you're the president of Mexico. If people are saying this to you, maybe fix Mexico.
Yeah.
So this new guy, I don't know if he's going to fix Mexico, but I think it's possible that, also because I don't really believe in his politics anyway, but I do believe that he could be, he could be the right type of person to interact with Trump and work out some sort of, for example, a new trade deal, and along with that, some sort of immigration arrangement. Go ahead, Jim.
To me, as someone who's spent almost his entire 57 years living in a border state with Mexico, there are a couple of fundamental issues to keep in mind. Number one, all of this INS stuff about illegal immigrants is nothing but a boondoggle. And we have to keep in mind that the reason we have illegal immigrants is because it benefits the establishment by supplying businesses with cheap, untaxable labor. Mm-hmm. And as someone who reported an employer previously who had illegal aliens working for him, and the INS did nothing about it, if we would just do something about taking away the incentive for these people who are trying to get a better way of life from coming over here, it would simply, just by enforcing the incentive, by removal of the incentive, we wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I would like to ask, though, I didn't know Albania has a border with Mexico.
Ha 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 ha.
I had to throw that in. So
I grew up in Arizona, and then the Navy brought me to San Diego.
Is Arizona a state within Albania? No, I'm just so in any case, we gotta laugh at something today. It's kind of a bleak environment right now. But for those of you that don't know, John Mattis claimed that his group was infiltrated by Macedonian and Albanian trolls, and people were. What did they say to you, Jim? They said, "I thought I didn't know you were an Albanian or something." What was the comment?
There were people who had known me for decades who felt that I was a paid troll.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, that's gotta feel a bit degrading.
For Trump and Putin.
Oh my God! I mean, that's like the thing is, we're living in a country where, I was always taught, your vote is secret. You don't have to tell people who you vote. I mean, you don't have to vote at all. I didn't vote in the first two elections I was eligible for. And yet there's this whole voter shaming dynamic that's going on here.
So much.
Right. So when you go around you of course you have Indivisible around San Diego. You have these organizations that are active in San Diego. Do you feel that it's kind of creating some sort of controlled environment where people are afraid to speak out?
I don't know if they're being very successful, because when I'm out and about, I'm not seeing an army of indivisible people out there. And I still go to street fairs and farmers markets, and I don't think they're very active, at least not that I'm aware of or that I see out in the world.
Yeah, I don't see any activity.
I don't know what they're doing online, and I don't know I know Our Revolution is backing a lot of candidates locally, and even their success has been limited. There's one person in particular that we thought would be an excellent candidate for his district, and the other Vote Blue No Matter Who people convinced him to drop out because they were pushing another candidate who we strongly believe would not win, and that person didn't. And so their success is mixed in Our Revolution, but Indivisible, I'm not seeing a whole lot of action with them.
And the people who took this guy down call themselves progressive Democrats.
So Jim, are you in the district where Representative Issa is currently serving?
No, both Josephine and I live in Scott T.P. Peters' district.
Okay, but Issa is in a district like close to where you live.
North of us, yes. He's not too far.
Do you believe?
As a matter of fact, Larry, your guy in Oceanside, is in Darrell Issa's district.
Okay, yeah, I mean, Darrell Issa has had like a very long and kind of interesting career. I mean, sometimes he seems a bit like, like all the other congressmen as in terms of financial issues, but he's been on this committee investigating the FBI biases and everything. Is there a strong countercurrent against him in San Diego? Do people want him? Do people oppose his probe into the FBI along with people like Nunes, or is there, on the other hand, enthusiasm towards it, or neither?
I've seen neither. I've seen nothing but complacency.
I know that there are a lot of Vote Blue No Matter Who people that really are making an effort to have him be gone. They stand on the corner with signs, and they really don't like him. But that's about all I know on that. And there's a lot of Vote Blue people that really want him gone.
Of course, there's also the issue of, you mentioned Our Revolution already. There's also Brand New Congress, I think, is another organization trying to bring a more progressive flavor to the Democratic nominees. And then Justice Democrats. So do either of you feel disappointed? I asked this of Joanne last night. I don't know if this kind of you've had like a question like this posed to you before. Do you feel disappointed in organizations, including Our Revolution, Senator Sanders himself, for the way that they have reacted since 2016? I personally would have expected a lot more combative behavior, but I'll let you give your reaction.
Well, for me, anybody who chooses to join the duopoly is a sellout, or they're complacent, or they don't have a problem with the corporate corruption. And all of those organizations are supporting Democrats, and they're alleging that bottom-up reform from within is going to be the solution. And something that Josephine responds to people about in that regard is a close to 40-year history of attempts from various progressives to try to reform the Democratic Party from within, and they've all failed.
Yeah. I think you're making like a good point. Like, there's people from the progressive financial standpoint. I do read about, like, I think Henry A. Wallace was a very far left vice president under Roosevelt. He was kind of shoved out of the Democratic Party. But there was also, forget about the socialism issue, but there was Senator Frank Church, who exposed the CIA in the 70s. Somebody I read about when I was probably in high school, actually. And he's barely ever talked about. He was a Democratic senator. He was a World War II veteran, and he was basically the Democratic Party now is like, oh, the CIA is fantastic. We love it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why when you ask me how I feel about our revolution or brand new Congress or all the people that are trying to reform the party from within, it's really difficult after what we've seen in 2016, after what we went through, how we watched the election in every single state. It was rigged in every state. I mean, for me personally, when I was watching them white out ballots with Bernie's name on it, while they were handing out provisional ballots like lollipops, it was a kick in the gut. It was like democracy died for sure. I was like, this is all just dog and pony show. And then to have the attorneys go into court on Jared Beck's lawsuit and say that they can go into a back room and smoke cigars and pick their own candidate who they want to be the nominee. For everyone to think that they are going to transform the party from within, I just think it's insanity. They've tried it so many times. We have a history of it that I know of in my lifetime. Jesse Jackson, when he lost, he started Rainbow, thinking he's going to take over the party. Doesn't. 4 years after that, Jerry Brown doesn't win, starts We the People. After that, it's Dennis Kucinich. Sadly, as much as I really liked him, didn't win, started Democrats for America. Howard Dean is after that, going to take over the party. Doesn't. We get Democracy for America. They're going to take over the party. And now we have Bernie, our revolution. How many more times are we going to keep trying to transform a party that kicks progressives to the curb while people cling to their leg and say, we're going to take you over? Not going to happen, especially after we see how they can rig elections and just spit in our face.
And something else that all of these organizations dodge is how they're going to remove the influence of big money on the party.
If anything, we've shown that Howard Dean, who's now a lobbyist, and Jerry Brown, who's involved with the fossil fuel, we've shown how progressives can be co-opted and convinced, whether financially or otherwise, how they have to just turn their back to progressives. They become, turncoats.
Yeah, what they did. I'm from Ohio. Dennis Kucinich is a guy that I never liked his opinions, but I always thought he was like a guy with huge stones who knew how to he knew how to really say stuff with no apologies. And they started smearing him concerning Syria this year, and I'm like, dude, it was like $25K. Mostly as an expense, I believe, and then you guys are taking friggin' money from literally the entire any industry, like the oil industry, like pharmaceutical industry, banking, anything. Like even Keith Ellison takes money from the banking industry.
Absolutely. It's like we have to fight for fake progressives. He wanted a no-fly zone in Syria. That's like an invitation to go to war with Russia.
Right, and I've taken him. I mean, a lot of people highlight the whole Muslim issue with him, and he is lying a lot about the Nation of Islam past. But forget it. I mean, the real issue is that he's a fraud in terms of his positions as far as as far as banking and as far as like what you said with foreign policy. So I think. Of course, there's issues with character with things like that, but at the end, performance is what matters. I remember, a lot of people made fun of Rick Santorum for being just this ridiculous, stodgy, moralistic Catholic, but the real problem with him was that he would reverse votes on the same issues. So,
he took pointers from Hillary on a private and public opinion.
Sure. So it's really like I think you could go to either party, and that's why I think it's a problem. It's a problem to commit to vote for Donald Trump too, because I don't
even refer to them as parties anymore. They're just two sides of the same coin.
Right. And as far as Senator Sanders. And by the way, it was Josephine. You just gave me an idea for a new article. concerning the different quote unquote reform movements, because that's quite a list you just rattled off. But
it's sad.
What's that?
It's sad.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it's disappointing, and I don't know what it's going to take for people to realize it's not going to happen. We just go from generation to generation, and then we get new blood, and I don't know if it's the ego. They think they're going to be the ones that are going to do it. I don't know. They don't understand what they're up against. When you can rig an election, you've reached your limit.
Right. I think Ross Perot was really one of the last people who said, you know what, I'm not going to depend on any of these idiots. I'm just going to just pay money and get ads and point at the charts I made. And screw these
Ross Perot got my vote.
He got my vote too.
So concerning Sanders, I know it's kind of an emotional topic because you put in a lot of effort for him. This week he put out a video where he really kind of and I put out my own response video that
you guys put out a response video too.
I'd like to see his opinion, but mine was a bit crude. I said that, but before I get to what I said. He specifically said that Donald Trump is giving in to Russian autocrats and dictators and everything. And I said, and I was referencing his own past, saying that he had his own independent foreign policy in the 80s as the mayor of Burlington. I said, and I'm sorry if this is going to trigger you guys, but I said he's graduated from poodle bitch to Chihuahua bitch because it's unfortunate. And the thing is, the guy during the campaign was a firebrand, and now it's like he's just an amplifier for some of the other people. Chuck Schumer has a right to his opinion, but there should be other opinions out there. So
there's a piece floating around of Chuck Schumer hanging out with Putin like 15 years ago. So I guess back then that was okay. Now it's not.
Yeah, Chuck Schumer looked a lot healthier back then, and now he looks kind of like. He looks like the picture of the past. But what was your reaction to Senator Sanders' video? And do you think that he's?
It was crushing. It was crushing to our spirit to see him fall for this narrative, to push this propaganda, of Red Scare. It's to actually even believe that what the intelligence people are saying. Because he was the one back in the day that did not believe that there were weapons of mass destruction, despite the fact that the intelligence community was claiming that there were. So now to have him defend the intelligence agencies and say that it's just so disappointing.
Yeah, it was
ever since he went to speak with Obama that time. After that, he came back a different person.
And you, Jim, what was your reaction? Did you see the video that I'm talking about?
I actually haven't seen it yet. I've read about it, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to watch it when I get some time. Nevertheless, ever since Bernie's been spewing the establishment narrative, every time I've watched him, it seemed to me like he was absolutely deadpan while he was doing it.
True.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of us who are pretty sure that he was coerced into doing this around the time of the convention when he was taken down.
Yeah, I think unfortunately there's not a lot of people left in either party that are willing to challenge the establishment. I'm not talking just about the establishment, but the intelligence community, because they can ruin their careers. There's allegations now that the FBI was trying to, I think, surveil House committee aides, and it's like, you know what? I think this is really a sign. I discussed it with Secret Service agent Gary Byrne. It's a sign that, I'm all for there being intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies. There's too many of them, and nobody can keep them accountable. And of course I support Senator Paul, but I think that there have been other people on the progressive side in the past that I know Tulsi Gabbard is a critic of theirs, that they're willing to say, look, We're not just going to swallow any old worm that you put on a hook. But those people, they won't get on TV. When they do get on TV, they're just bullied and silenced. And I think that's why people watch a show like Alex Jones. That's why on the other side there's people who watch a show like throw a name out there. Let's say Lee Camp, for example. So I think we've already gone over an hour. Looking forward, I know I still believe that there could be peace with North Korea. I still believe that there could be some good things. But do you have a sense of optimism at all at what's happening in the country, or is it? I'm also feeling despondent over this whole saga that we were all talking about.
It's discouraging for sure. I try to remain hopeful that we will have peace, but it's discouraging.
The division that's happening with we the people is driving me crazy.
There's a lot of Trump derangement syndrome, and people are just so blinded by their hatred for him that they don't care what the reasons are. They just want him gone, and they'll jump on board with whatever is tossed their way. Like, yes, let's do that. I mean, if they went after him for the emollient clause, then you can sit there and say, okay, that might be legitimate. But then that would mean that almost everybody in Washington, D.C. would have a problem.
Right. There wouldn't be anybody eligible to run for office unless they were, one of these.
That would really drain the swamp.
Right. Yeah.
So right. That's why they don't go after him for that.
I think to be honest with you, we both know how bipartisanship can be bad, but let's say if they were to work with Donald Trump and let's say, hypothetically, Nancy Pelosi were to go up to Donald Trump and say, hey, let's legalize weed. Let's legalize weed. He'd be like, okay. And they'd probably both, everybody would be happy. But obviously we all know that they have a reason they don't want to legalize weed, which is that they want to keep some people in prison, and they also want to keep people using, narcotics, narcotic painkillers.
Pharmaceutical company pays too much money to keep it. But they do work with him on certain things, because while everybody is outraged over him meeting with Putin, most of the Democrats voted to increase that military budget by, what was it, 700
billion.
That is true.
Also, the Democrats voted for that. This is them resisting.
And that's
so.
That to me, that's just more proof that they're all sellouts to the military-industrial complex.
So have the two of you been observing this walk away movement that's been happening? Do you identify with the people that are doing it? I know some of them are going over to the Trump side, but obviously there's people who are like, well, I don't really like Trump. It's just like the Democrats suck. So what's your sentiment? I mean, you Dem exited, so it's kind of a different issue with you guys. But do you know people from everyday life that are experiencing that type of change?
I haven't personally met anybody that's experienced that change. I do understand the thinking behind it. I don't think that it has anything to do with Putin, because some people are now trying to say that Putin is behind the walkaway. We both Dem exited after the convention, because that was just the last long camel's back. We understand the whole idea of the duopoly. So, but for other people to now come around and walk away, we understand the logic behind it. I do anyway.
Yeah, I have a viewer who's also a YouTube creator, Lennon McCarthy, who, by the way, check out his channel. He has a series called Comrade Trumpsky. But, that guy was a huge Bernie supporter, and he's in the chat. I just saw his name. But he told me, like, he was like, yeah, I was going to vote for Joe Stein. And then, like, after the election, with, like, all the Russia bullshit, I'm like, fuck these guys. I'm just going to vote. I'm going to support Donald Trump just because everything else is a bunch of nonsense. Like a lot of it, and then they tried to claim that we're the zombies. Now, I would say some people have gone a little too far and said, "Oh, Donald Trump, he's a genius, Mister Super Super 40 chess guy." No, appointing Rex Tillerson is not. That's not 4D chess. That's like basically, that's like Spygate. That's like Belichick football. That's nothing to do with being a genius. So, but yes, it's caused me to look at Donald Trump in a different light. It's caused people to kind of think, I don't know what the hell to do here because there's this guy who's an obnoxious prick. But
yeah, there's people that hate him, but the Democrats are making people like him. It's not, and that's it's just scary that they have like put upon so much crap his way that people are starting to say maybe he's not so bad.
Right, and you can still like I mean, I see things he does, especially regarding my beef with it is like this oil policy, and also like his. I don't believe really that you need to impose sanctions on countries like Venezuela that are already probably failing on their own. So it's kind of like why, but I don't freak out about it. I don't know why people have to be such hysterical idiots, but it's kind of the mood of the times doesn't really jibe with the way I'm feeling personally.
The other famous meme that's floating around is how when the Democrats do it, it's not bad, but when the Republicans do it, then it's bad.
Yeah,
and Trump has done pretty much the same thing that Obama has done on so many of the things, and no one batted an eyelash when Obama was doing it, but now they're losing their minds because Trump's doing it.
Yeah, we have in the chat, we have Jeff Johnson says, well, are you certain Trump isn't testing loyalty? I think it takes a genius to pull off some of the shit he has. No, I'm not saying he's an idiot. I'm just saying there are certain things he does that people like. I mean, I'm not speaking. I don't know if you guys noticed this, Jim or Josephine, but there are Trump people that say literally everything that Trump does is the smartest thing in the world, and it's like no. I mean, there's no way you can explain to me that appointing Tillerson or putting, who's that other moron he put in the cabinet? Oh, Jeff Sessions. I mean, some of these things, it's like, no, I'm not going to pretend that this is smart.
I don't know. I think maybe he was trying to put in people that could help him because quite honestly, my opinion is, I think he was trying hard not to win. I don't think he thought he was gonna win. And when he did, he had to scramble to get people that he would trust to help him.
I think this is my feeling. I think he found people that he thought he thought he had to deal with them, and they turned out to be bigger weasels than
That's that one's another option. Yeah.
Yeah, like he realized I made a shitty hire. And this guy, and I hope if he fires Jeff Sessions, I'll be like, yeah, this will be great.
He needs to protect on that TV show again. Start firing people.
Yeah, right. And I think that we're going to. I mean, Jeff says I'll eat my words about Jeff Sessions a year from now. I mean, if you see Jeff Sessions basically showing up with a Rasta hat and toking up on camera, but. Really, I think we'll close. I'll let you guys have the last word. But remember, there were times in America where you could discuss actual policies and belief systems. You could discuss things without being called, some sort of paid digital bot from Albania or something. And unfortunately, we have two people in front of us that a person that they knew personally, John Mattis, did that to them, and all they wanted to do was to change America, change California. So what message do you have now, given that we're headed towards a midterm? Do you? I mean, does it really matter to you? Is there really something to vote for?
Not for me. I think that although I voted this last election, pretty much anything that I voted for did not win, and it wasn't a surprise to me. Um, I'm disappointed in this whole thing. So it's so hard for me to be enthusiastic. I don't think I'm ever going to capture that again. I gave a year and a half of my life to helping Bernie because I believed in him, and I have my eyes wide open now, and it's changed me.
I'm in the boat with Josephine on that. For me, I will never ever support a member of either side of the duopoly again, regardless. And to me, the biggest thing that's going to matter about the upcoming election is how many people choose to leave the duopoly.
Right, and I wish there was like really a change. I think we could have like more than. I mean, people are talking about a third party. Why not have 4 or 5 parties?
Why have any party? Just
exactly.
Vote for people. Just vote for people.
Let's go back to George Washington on that.
Right. We would have. I think that the loyalty should be to the constituent. The loyalty should be to, I mean, everybody. Think about it. I mean, you two are sitting in the same room. You probably have differences of opinion between you two. You would have different platforms. Obviously the 3 of us have huge differences. So, but like, that's really something that I could get behind. Like really eliminating these party divisions. Obviously, it's not going to happen with the way society is going at the moment. But
they use identity politics to divide people, and it's sad to watch. It really is. When you can step back and look at what's really happening, it's so easy to see, but people are so sucked into that. They identify to their clan, to their club, to their their tribe. I hate to use that word, but that's almost what you see. It's like such brainwashing that that 1% must be loving the hell out of this.
And there are people who matter going back 100 years at least, who we need to keep listening to. Smedley Butler, Franklin Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy.
Right, absolutely. And I think there's a thought I had in my head, and I lost my train of thought because I was looking at the chat here. But in any case, we're going to continue to, at least when I can, I'm going to try to continue investigating what's going on, because it could be that after this election, and irregardless of the election, this snake named John Mattis will continue to propagate his nonsense because nobody's noticed. And I think that there is some sort of fix in among certain networks within the media to keep that the aspect of the deception off of the news. I don't know how it got into the news on Politico that he'd admitted to working for David Brock's or talking to David Brock. He didn't admit that he worked for David Brock. He kind of let that slip to Mr. Grant McKinnon of Canada, but that was I still laugh at that clip. But
good on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, we had a lot of fun, but I mean, people aren't paying attention. But so I'd like the audience to help us. You see me. I'm here wearing my Mexico soccer jersey to show you that if this does not succeed, basically, I will fall apart like they did in the World Cup. No, I'm joking. But the fact is, we need the help of the people in the audience to spread this story. I'll show it on screen again. It's very simple. Yeah, the links are actually in the 3rd article. So
good.
Hold on. Let me pull it up. Oops. Okay, so you have this. This is the first article. It documents the whole issue of the indictments and how they tried to tie it to Bernie Sanders. And then, of course, this is Article 2, discussing the whole history, the personal history of John Mattis, all the way back to his university days in Wisconsin, and how he bizarrely was able to get any credibility with these journalists, which I'm still bewildered. And then Article 3 includes our discussion between him and a person from Pulse Niagara, a defunct newspaper from Ontario. So the video is there, and it's very easy to navigate. The two links, the one to the parts 1 and 2, are in the first paragraph of Article 3. So that's about it. Thank you again to Josephine and Jim for.
Thank you so much for everything you've done. We really appreciate it. You've been wonderful and amazing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ramon.
No, I think we're all in the same boat on this one, and I just wish that there were more passengers. So have a great night, and I guess enjoy the San Diego weather.
Thanks.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Night.